Subscribe, like, comment if you can handle the truth. Because once you step inside Rikers Island, there's no rewinding what you are about to hear. The body was discovered at 4:17 a.m., wedged behind a service corridor that most guards pretended did not exist. The hallway smelled of bleach and old rust, the kind of odor that clung to your clothes long after you left. A corrections officer on his first overnight shift had followed a flickering light, a maintenance bulb that should have been dead for years. He thought it was a wiring issue. Instead, he found a man face down, wrists bound with torn bed sheets, jaw clenched as if frozen mid-scream. There were no visible stab wounds, no blood pooling on the concrete, just a face swollen with fear and a bruise circling the neck, precise and practiced. Rikers Island was already awake by the time NYPD detectives crossed the bridge. Sirens echoed off the East River. Floodlights washed the compound in pale white, turning fences into jagged shadows. This was not supposed to happen. In a jail built for violence, death still triggered alarms, especially when the victim was not an inmate. His name was Thomas Hale, 36 years old. Civilian legal aid contracted to review inmate grievances. He carried no weapon, no badge, just a stack of folders and a reputation for asking the wrong questions. Hale had signed out at 11:40 p.m. security logs, showed him exiting the legal wing. He never made it past the south corridor. The cameras had gone dark for exactly 12 minutes. Detective Mara Listen stood over the body, notebook pressed against her chest. She had worked organized crime, gang homicides, cold cases that sat like rotten filing cabinets. But Rikers was different. It breathed. It watched. Every clang of a gate felt like a warning. It listened, noticed the detail others missed. Hale's shoes were spotless. No scuffs. No drag marks. Whoever killed him knew the building well enough to carry a body through restricted corridors without leaving a trace. Captain Louis Navarro joined her, eyes scanning the guards posted too stiff, too quiet. This place eats secrets, he said under his breath, and it never spits them out. By sunrise, the story leaked. A civilian employee dead inside New York's most notorious jail. News vans lined the bridge. Politicians demanded answers. The Department of Correction promised cooperation. Inside the walls, something else spread faster than headlines. Fear. Hale had been interviewing inmates tied to a series of internal complaints. Missing evidence. Disappearing witnesses. Allegations that certain detainees were being targeted, moved, silenced. Most of the reports went nowhere, except one, filed 3 weeks earlier. Hale had flagged it urgent. The complainant was inmate Darius Cole, 29, awaiting trial on armed robbery charges. Cole claimed he had witnessed a beating that never made the logs. He named names, a corrections officer, a supervisor, and an outside contractor who made problems disappear. Cole requested protective custody. He never got it. When Alyson requested Cole for questioning, she was told he had been transferred overnight. No destination listed. Inside the jail, rumors sharpened into warnings. Keep your mouth shut. Keep your head down. Guards avoided Alyson's eyes. Inmates whispered through bars, tapping codes into metal. Someone wanted the investigation buried. Alyson dug into Hale's background. He was clean, no criminal record, divorced, one daughter in Queens. What stood out was his persistence. Email showed he had requested access to sealed surveillance footage. He had asked for after-hours escort permissions. He had scheduled a meeting the night he died. The meeting request was sent to a private DOC email address, one that did not officially exist. Alyson and Navarro reviewed the security logs again. A single ID badge had opened the south corridor door during the blackout. Badge registered to Officer Kevin Rourke. 15 years on the job. Commended. Trusted. Rourke denied being near the corridor. Claimed his badge had been stolen days earlier. Internal Affairs confirmed the report. Filed late. Filed incomplete. When Alyson requested Rourke's phone records, the request stalled. When she asked for cell tower pings, she was told jurisdiction issues applied. Rikers was closing ranks. Then came the second shock. A janitor found a man hiding inside a laundry cart near the medical wing. Malnourished, dehydrated, barely conscious. It was Darius Cole. Cole's statement came in fragments. He said Hale had promised to help him, so they had uncovered something big. Not a beating, a pipeline. Drugs, phones, information moving through the jail with protection from the inside. Cole claimed Hale had documents, names, a schedule, and a location. Before Ellison could press further, Cole went into cardiac arrest. He survived, barely. Doctors ruled it stress-induced. Guards sealed the ward. That night, Ellison returned to Hale's desk. Someone had already been there. Drawers emptied, files missing, except for one thing taped beneath the chair. A folded map of Rikers Island, hand-drawn, with a circle marked in red. The old boiler room beneath the decommissioned cell block. Locked, forgotten, officially unused. Ellison requested access. Denied. Fire hazard concerns. She went anyway. The boiler room door was cold to the touch. The lock was newer than the rust around it. Navarro pried it open as Ellison held her breath. Inside, the air was thick and still. Against the far wall sat a filing cabinet. Modern, clean, out of place. Inside the top drawer were Hale's folders. Every grievance, every name, every accusation. And at the bottom, a flash drive labeled with a single word. Tonight. Ellison stared at it, realizing Hale had not been silenced for what he knew. He had been silenced for what he was about to expose. By the time the flash drive was decrypted, 3 separate agencies were suddenly very interested in a jail that had spent decades operating in the shadows. The file tree opened like confession. Video clips, audio recordings, time-stamped schedules, names cross-referenced with badge numbers, vendor contracts, and inmate movements. It was not chaos. It was a system. Detective Mara Ellison sat in a windowless conference room at one police plaza, eyes burning as the screen played footage Hale had secretly recorded. Guards escorting specific inmates through blind corridors, doors opening that were never logged, packages exchanged in stairwells. A voice memo followed, Hale whispering into his phone, breath tight. They are using the old boiler tunnels. Midnight rotations, Tuesdays and Fridays. If this goes public, people will die. Ellison already knew that part. The flash drive ended with a final folder marked raw. Inside was a single video file, corrupted halfway through. It showed Hale standing in the boiler room, camera angled low, focus on a metal door inset into concrete. Voices echoed beyond it. Familiar ones, corrections officers, a supervisor, and someone else. Calm, authoritative, not DOC. Then the footage cut out. Captain Navarro slammed his hand on the table. This is not just internal corruption. This is organized, external. Before Ellison could respond, her phone vibrated. A restricted number. She stepped into the hallway. Stop digging, a man's voice said, flat and unhurried. Rikers doesn't need another body. The call ended. Within hours, Internal Affairs intervened. Officially, the case was now a joint task force matter. Unofficially, Ellison felt the leash tighten. Access requests were delayed. Interviews postponed. Evidence logged and buried under procedure. And then Officer Kevin Rourke vanished. His apartment in Staten Island was empty. Bed neatly made. Badge and service weapon left on the kitchen table. His car was found parked near the ferry terminal. Keys inside. No note. No signs of struggle. Just absence. Media outlets labeled it a nervous breakdown. Ellison knew better. Rourke was either running or already dead. She went back to Rikers under the pretense of following up on Hale's timeline. The guards at the gate checked her credentials longer than necessary. Inside, the air felt heavier than before. Word had spread. Inmates watched her with something close to hope and something closer to terror. In the medical ward, Darius Cole lay restrained to the bed. His eyes flicked toward the door when Ellison entered. "They know you have it," he whispered before she spoke. "The drive. Hale told me if anything happened, you'd find it." Ellison pulled a chair close. "Who is they?" Cole swallowed. "Not just guards. Not just gangs. It's bigger. They move people through here. Witnesses. Couriers. Guys who disappear from the street and show up in cells next to targets. Information trades. Favors. It's how cases die. Who runs it?" Cole shook his head, panic rising. "I never saw the top, but I heard the name. They call him Bishop." Ellison froze. The nicknames surface in other investigations. A fixer, a ghost, someone who cleaned messes for clients who could afford silence. Before she could ask more, alarms blared, orderlies rushed in. A nurse pulled to listen back. Cole began convulsing, foam at his lips. The heart monitor screamed. He flatlined. Doctors worked him for 12 minutes. 13. Then the scream went still. The official cause was complication from stress and pre-existing conditions. Listen watched the body bag zip close, rage simmering beneath her skin. 2 witnesses gone. 1 murdered, 1 erased. That night, someone broke into Allison's apartment. Nothing stolen. Just a message written on her bathroom mirror in black marker. Drop it. She did not. Allison followed the money. Vendor contracts linked to shell companies. Maintenance firms paid triple market rates. Food suppliers overbilling. All of them traced back to a consulting group with no physical address and a board of directors that did not exist. But one signature appeared again and again on approvals. Deputy Warden Samuel Klein. Klein had been with Rikers for over 20 years. Clean record. Media friendly. The man who smiled during reform press conferences. Allison requested an interview. Klein agreed immediately. They met in his office overlooking the yard. Inmates moved like ant below. Klein poured coffee, hands steady. Thomas Hale was idealistic, Klein said softly. That makes people careless. Did you know he was investigating off the books? Klein smiled. Everyone investigates something off the books eventually. Allison slid a photo across the desk. A still frame from Hale's video. Klein's reflection faintly visible in the metal door. The smile vanished. You don't understand what would happen if this comes out, Klein said. This place is a pressure valve. You pull the wrong lever, the whole city feels it. Allison leaned forward. Then maybe it should. Klein's eyes hardened. You think Hale was a hero. He was a threat. He didn't see the consequences. 2 hours after the interview, Klein's car was struck by a truck on the FDR drive. He died at the scene. Hit and run. No witnesses. No plates. The case was spiraling. Navarro called Allison into his office. He looked older, tired. We are being shut down, he said. Orders from above. Evidence sealed. Task force dissolved. Allison stared at him. So that's it. Navarro hesitated, then slid a folder across the desk. This was never logged. Hale mailed it to my home 2 days before he died. Insurance. Inside was a list of inmate transfer dates, names, and one final note in Hale's handwriting. If you're reading this, they're still inside, and the tunnels are still open. Allison looked up. The boiler room wasn't the only access point. Navarro nodded grimly. There's another entrance. Under the river. Old ferry maintenance shaft. Sealed on paper. Allison felt the weight of it settle in her chest. That night, she returned to Rikers alone. No badge swipe. No escort. She followed Hale's map deeper than before, past warning signs and locked gates, into a tunnel that sloped downward toward the sound of moving water. Halfway down, her phone buzzed with a single message from an unknown number. You were warned. The lights behind her went out, and somewhere ahead, a door began to open. The tunnel swallowed the last trace of light, leaving Detective Mara listen with the sound of her own breathing and the slow churn of water beneath the concrete. The air was damp, metallic, old. This was infrastructure built for a city that pretended it never made mistakes. Her phone screen glowed, then died, battery drained, or cut. Allison moved forward anyway. The door ahead opened fully, revealing a maintenance chamber lit by a single work lamp. Pipes ran along the ceiling like exposed veins. At the center stood a man in a dark coat, hands folded, posture calm. Not a guard, not a contractor. He looked like someone who belonged anywhere power gathered quietly. You shouldn't be here, he said. Allison recognized a voice from Hale's corrupted video. Bishop. The man smiled faintly. That's a name people use when they want to simplify things. She raised her weapon. Thomas Hale is dead. Darius Cole is dead. Deputy Warden Klein is dead. This ends now. Bishop tilted his head. Those were outcomes, not goals. Hale chose to become a problem. By documenting a criminal enterprise. I'm misunderstanding it, Bishop replied. Rikers is not a jail. It is leverage. It moves information. It pressures witnesses. It keeps cases balanced. People think corruption is chaos. It isn't. It is maintenance. Footsteps echoed behind Alyssa. She turned, heart-dropping. Captain Louis Navarro stepped into the light. Louis, she said, tell me this isn't what it looks like. Navarro's eyes were tired, apologetic. I tried to protect you. By leading me here. By keeping you alive, he said. This machine does not stop. It just replaces parts. Ellison felt the betrayal like a physical blow. You use Hale. Navarro shook his head. Hale used himself. He wanted to be a savior. He didn't understand that exposure creates collateral damage. Bishop stepped closer. You saw the files. You know how many cases would collapse. How many violent offenders would walk. How many witnesses would vanish without protection. The public wants clean stories. Reality is compromise. Ellison steadied her aim. You strangled a man in a corridor and staged it. Bishop's expression hardened. I prevented a chain reaction. A sound broke the tension. Sirens, distant but growing. Helicopter blades chopped the air above the island. Navarro's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, confusion flickering. That wasn't supposed to happen. Ellison smiled grimly. Hale had insurance. You weren't the only one he trusted. Bishop's calm finally cracked. You leaked the drive. I sent it to 3 outlets and a federal judge, Ellison said. Delayed release. Dead man switch. The chamber shook as boots thundered through the tunnel. Floodlights flared. Agents poured in. Weapons raised. Voices commanding compliance. Bishop backed away, hands lifting slowly. Navarro looked at Ellison, something like relief crossing his face. Maybe this is for the best. He never finished the sentence. A shot rang out. Navarro collapsed, blood blooming across his shirt. Bishop stood frozen, a stunned look on his face. The shooter was not an agent. Officer Kevin Rourke emerged from the shadows, weapon smoking, eyes wild. You promised me protection, he shouted at Bishop. You promise. Bishop took a step back. Kevin, listen to me. Rourke fired again. Bishop fell, lifeless, the name finally meaningless. Agent swarmed Rourke. He did not resist. In the aftermath, the story exploded. Raids, arrests, hearings, footage leaked, names fell. Rikers Island became a headline again, this time as a symbol of rot too deep to ignore. The city promised reform, oversight, transparency. Ellison testified for days. She watched careers end. She watched families cry. She watched the system close ranks even as it claimed to open up. Rikers did not shut down overnight. The tunnels were sealed. The boiler room locked for good. The ferry shaft flooded with concrete. Officially, the network was dismantled. 3 months later, Ellison stood on the bridge at dawn, looking back at the island. The water was calm, the fences silent. Her phone buzzed. An email, no sender. Attached was a single photo. A corridor she recognized. Fresh paint, new lights, and a message typed beneath it. Maintenance complete. Ellison closed her eyes, understanding settling in like a chill. They had caught the man, but the system was still breathing. And somewhere inside those walls, it was learning how to hide better. If you think this story was intense, you are not ready for the next one. Stay close.